Rick Dior, and today we're going to talk about these drums. This is a Gretsch Centennial kit from 1983. I purchased this set on eBay in the 90s from a gentleman who owned a music store. He had ordered them, and then the store was going out of business. And so he put them up for a bid, and I got them. This set is really dear to me, as I've recorded probably over 50 recordings with it, albums, releases, and also hundreds of videos, as you've seen. A lot of you have asked questions over the years about these drums, so I decided to do a video about them. I'm going to do a video about all the jazz drum kits and funk and rock drum kits that I own. There's many, many of them. This will be the first one in that series. This kit has a finish that's called Carpathian Elm. As you know, elm trees, or you might know, elm trees are mostly extinct now because of the blight. Unfortunately, that was a beetle attack, an insect attack, and most of the elm trees are gone now from North America. This wood, though, is from the Carpathian Mountains, and it's a burl, and it's a veneer, obviously, and God only knows how long it took them to get enough matching veneer for these drums. Now, a guy that I know, John Sheridan, sent me some information on these several years ago because I was asking about them. And apparently, this was Charlie Roy's idea, the Gretsch CEO at the time. And the Gretsch factory had moved from Brooklyn to Arkansas. They were purchased by Baldwin. And this was to be their anniversary kit. So the drums were slated to be made in a set of 100 of these, of different sizes, special order sets. This is the only jazz set I know of in existence like it. If there's another one out there, please let me know. I call it a jazz set because of the sizes: an 18-inch bass, 10-inch tom, 12-inch tom, 14-inch tom, and then a 6.5 by 14 snare drum. And right now I have calf heads on the snare drum, calf heads on the bass drum. I usually have calf heads on the toms, but this time of year in North Carolina, the weather's pretty much up and down. So I put them on mostly in the winter is when I use the calf heads. The tension stays pretty tight. So instead of that, I'm just using remo coated ambassadors. Now the heads came with these the drums came with these gold heads. They were actually, gold in color, pretty crazy to look at. I took them off right away, put them in storage. They were a little too bling for me. But I did purchase these stands from a company called HB. Not sure they're still in business. It's been over 20 years, and they kind of match the gold plating on the rims and the lugs of the drums. So this was a special thing for Gretsch to do, and unfortunately I think they only got up to around 50 kits before Charlie Roy was no longer with the company. And he was signing the badges originally, but he obviously stopped. So I'm not sure if all 100 were ever made. There's an article that John Sheridan sent me from a magazine called Classic Drummer. I'm sure that's not happening anymore, that magazine, but it had a lot of information about the Gretsch Centennial drums from 1983. Now, these drums mean a lot to me for another reason too. When I was gigging, when I was in my late teens, I bought a set of round badge Gretsch drums from the 1950s. And I probably played 1,000 gigs on those all around the tri-state New York area, Connecticut, Philly, New York City, New Jersey. All these gigs were done on that jazz kit. And then the first week that I moved down to North Carolina, they were stolen, unfortunately, out of my van that I was driving. I got home from a gig late one night. I was really tired. I'm figuring, well, we're out here in the country. It's no one really around. And sure enough, got up in the morning and the car had been broken into and the drums were gone. I've never seen them again. Ironically, I lived in New York my whole life before that, and never had anything stolen. So that was my introduction to North Carolina. Of course, haven't had anything else like that happen since, thank God, but that was very upsetting if any of you have ever had anything stolen like that. So I was always looking for another Gretsch set, and these came along, and they looked great, and I purchased them, and I really love them. Same exact shells, the Jasper shells. But again, these drums were made in Arkansas, the Baldwin factory. I grew up looking at the Gretsch factory. I used to travel from the train from Williamsburg into Manhattan. I lived in Williamsburg for a little while, and Flatbush before that in Brooklyn. And I would go right past the Gretsch factory. Of course, it was closed down at that point in the 80s. But when I was a kid, I know that's where all the K Zildjians were and all the Gretsch drums were made. And then they moved out of there. That factory was closed down. So these drums are special because they sound great and they look great. And Gretsch drums have always been great for high tunings, as most of you know. So you can tune these drums up pretty high and they never choke out. So this is the one jazz kit that I own, and I own 6 different sets. We'll be doing videos on them. I have a Sonar set. I have a Yamaha Maple Custom set that I really like. I have a 125th anniversary Gretsch set that's beautiful. That has a 20-inch bass drum. And then I have a couple of nesting kits that I got when I lived in New York. So I'll show you all those on a separate video. So these drums, you can tune them very, very high. Now, this is a very low tuning for this kit. It's the lowest tuning I use. I've been making a lot of videos with them, all kinds of stuff. And I'm about to switch this kit out with some others, so I wanted to do this video before that. But one great thing about the Gretsch drums is you can tune them up really high, and they still ring a lot. And that's probably because of the Jasper shells. I think there's a layer of gum, which is a kind of tree in there, and that might help that resonance up high. There's no other drum I've ever had that I could tune this high and have ring that long. So they're very melodic sounding. And the bass drums especially sound beautiful. They don't ring too much, and there's no muffling on this bass drum. Especially if you put calf heads on them, they have just the right amount of ring, which is a beautiful thing. And again, I think it's really the shells. And the bearing edges on these are a little bit kind of round almost. They're not real steep, so that helps too. They're very mellow sounding drums. And they have a great response. All the old Gretsch drums, they respond very quickly. So you can play them really lightly and they speak very quickly. And that's one thing I love about them. They don't suck you in. All right? Now, I haven't played any of the newer Gretsch drums except my 125th anniversary set, but those are a little bigger. That's a 12-inch tom, a 14, and a 20-inch bass drum. And a smaller snare drum. So we'll show you those, like I said, in another video. But even those have different heads on them, but they don't respond as quickly as these older drums. Now they have all this gold hardware on them, which is very attractive, and it doesn't oxidize. I've had some of this plated hardware that does oxidize. This has never oxidized, which is great. I don't clean them too much. I kind of like the patina of them getting a little older. And again, you know, the finish is that elm. It's a burl, so it's really pretty. So I hope that answers most of your questions about these drums. I know I've got a lot of emails since I've been posting many videos with them. All I can say is if you find a set, it's probably going to be a lot of money, but it's really worth it. They're great drums, and you know, the hardware is actually really good for old Gretsch hardware, and I don't think they spared any expense when they wanted to do this anniversary edition of these drums from 1983. So I'll just play a little, and then we'll see you next time.